Well, hello. The clock's just ticked over to 1 o'clock on my college laptop, so we'll make a start. Welcome back to everybody who was here with us this morning, and welcome, of course, to anybody who's joining us new for the first time this afternoon. This is session 3, which is all about class notebook and how these can be used with teams and with students. Just in case there are some new people joining us, I'll just run through the introductions quickly again and a little bit about how the session's planned to run. My name's Alistair Rain, and in a moment I'm going to hand over to my colleagues Stuart Parkin and Russell Moss, who will be running the on-screen demonstrations. We all work for the college's Learning Technology team, which is part of the quality team. We do have our own internal website with videos and support materials on. The link for that is shown on the right-hand side of the screen in front of you. So just a few things before we get started. Please turn off your video. You might have had the experience in other meetings. If you're the only person with video on and we're not sharing a screen, you'll appear in the full screen for everyone to see, which can make for uncomfortable viewing sometimes. So please turn videos off and also mute microphones if you're not asking a question, as it helps to reduce the echo and feedback. Please continue to ask questions in the chat window on the right hand side, and Russell and myself will try our best to answer those. If there's anything that can be more easily demonstrated, we'll flag it up to Stu and ask him to go through it on the screen. Also, I suppose to get us in the mood for summer, I guess for a lot of people it's going to be the last few hours at college before summer holidays. I thought I might post the cricket scores in the chat on the right hand side as well to get us in that summer holiday mood, although at the moment it's not very good reading for England fans, I'm afraid. There will also be a chance to ask questions at various points, and if you could use the raise hand icon that's just being indicated with the arrow on the screen, that would be helpful just to keep it manageable, because we already have more than 100 people in the session now this afternoon. We are making a recording, and this will be available after the sessions today, so you will have a chance to watch that again, listen back if you need to. Okay, so Stu, if you could just move on to slide 2, we'll have a quick look at what we're hoping to cover this afternoon. I won't read it all word for word, I'll let you read that, but just a quick overview, setting up class notebook within Teams, looking at differences between OneNote, which you may have used for yourself in the past, and the difference between that and class notebook, different types of delivery, synchronous and asynchronous. Then putting on content and distributing it to your students, and finally giving some feedback to your students on any work they might have done in class notebook. So I think without further ado, hand over to Stu for the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Alistair. Just before I go into the into this session, just want to revisit one of the questions that came up in the past session when Nicola had issues with the chat, and Helen did as well. Russell has done some digging about during the break, and it would appear that at the moment, if you've got over 100 people in a session, that's why the chat's not working for certain people. So unfortunately, there will be people in the session as well that chat is not available to. It's not something that we were aware of, but that is possibly at least why that's not appearing for some people, and apologies to those people who may not see the chat in here. I'll go into this session again. If you do want to revisit the sessions, they will be made available at the end of the day, and so I will be sending out an email with a link to a feedback form, and then all the links to every session from here, but also to any of the others we've ran over the last few weeks as well, so you can revisit those. I want to look in this session at class notebook. Again, it will be a guided tour around it. We've not got the time and we've got far too many people in here to do much of an interactive kind of session in here, so it really is a guided tour and showing you, and then please do follow up with us. in terms of setting that up for yourself and getting it working how you want, and any experimentation we're happy to help with. I'll go into sharing my screen to show you where Class Notebook sits. There is another app that you may be familiar with called OneNote, which Alistair mentioned in the outcomes there. If you've used OneNote before, this is the app that can be downloaded to your computer. This is a bit of software that's been part of Microsoft Office for quite a while, and it creates a digital notebook that you can keep notes, media, whatever in organized tabs and pages within there, and that's been around for a while. And you would use that across different devices to store notes that you make. What Class Notebook does, it's still part of OneNote, so it can be opened in that OneNote program, but it brings it into the classroom environment. So as a teacher, you could set up a class. I'll share one that's been used. Stacey Foy has shared hers with me. So Class Notebook sits within Teams, and it populates the notebook. And instead of that OneNote version that I showed you there, just having tabs for yourself, you can see down the left-hand side here, hopefully there's all the students attached to that. So it gives you all the functionality of OneNote, but puts it into a teaching and learning environment. We're going to use it in Teams today rather than in the OneNote app. And also you can use it out on an internet browser. We're going to use it within Teams though, so I can show you how it works in this context. Any changes that you make in the OneNote app or in the browser version of this though, they all synchronize together. And like I said before, across different devices as well. Because you can put content into here and work with it in all those different places, you want to keep making sure that you're up to date. There may be work that students sent and it's not synchronized yet. So you can use this reload tab icon in the top right hand corner to reload the page, and that'll pull through any changes that have been made that haven't been updated yet in your version of this. It's particularly useful when you're using Class Notebook rather than just OneNote, because you've got changes potentially being made by tens of students that you want to make sure are all up to date. It's generally good updating in real time anyway, from my experience of it, but it does help to have that as one of your habits. You'll also see there that I've gone to the full width of my screen because I have the list view open for my list of teams. I have this panel on the left hand side that can get in the way and steal some space. I can go to expand any tab by doing that and giving me much more of my screen width. So the Class Notebook here has been set up by Stacey for her learners. You see there's a collaboration space at the top there and a content library. We'll go into what those are, and underneath there's all of her students. These are populated by her team. So any students she adds to her team, that will update the list of students within here. And they each have sections under their name, which only they can see. And we'll go into this in more detail as well. We'll have a look under student. You can see they've got their documents there. What I'm going to do is go through the setting up from scratch of the Class Notebook within my new team I created this morning, and then we'll see how it goes from being set up to being this sort of populated version. If I go back into my Teams panel, I'm going to go down to my test class. And one thing that's important to note is I saw a question there, Musarat asked, I think, whether you can add notebooks to each channel within a team. Unfortunately, it only sits on the general channel. It doesn't appear as you can see on these ones underneath. So it only appears on the general one, and as such you would, when you create the class notebook, which we'll do in a second, you can build in those units into each student's folder and give them that structure as well. But yeah, the only sits on that general channel. What I'm going to do first, and I missed over this morning in the session 1, so I just want to revisit this. I'm just going to go to manage team. So the dots next to my team name, manage team. Remember, I added Alistair as a teacher. I want to drop him down to being a student, so I can change his role if I've accidentally added him. We can only delete the students or members from this course as well. We can't delete other owners. So in order to delete somebody, we'd need to change their role to member, and then the cross arrives for us to delete from the team. But now I've got 2 students on my class. I'm going to go back to the general channel and come up to my class notebook tab. See, I've got nothing in there at the moment, and what I want to do is set up the class notebook. I can choose to do a blank one, or I can bring content through from existing ones. So if I do that, it gives me an overview of how it was set up, and then I can bring content through from other notebooks to populate this if I want to. So you can share content across notebooks. I'm going to set up a blank one though. So I'm going to go set up class notebook, blank notebook, and then it gives me an overview of the sections of a notebook. And within here, I mentioned briefly before, the collaboration space and the content library. The collaboration space is what I referred to when we were sharing our screen before in session 2. And that gives an area where both teachers and students can contribute to that space. And we'll do a little exercise between the 3 of us just to illustrate how you use that in a sec. The content library is similar to how a lot of teachers have used Moodle. So you're putting content on there. Only the teacher can edit it and students can view it. So you've got a read-only area in the content library. You've also got the student notebooks that I showed before, so a private space for each student where the teacher can edit, but the student can edit their own content, but they can't view others. Students. So there's a concern that we've had from students when they've looked at this. The students will be able to see each other's work and comment on it and be able to change it and things like that. They only have access to their own section. I'm going to click on next to go to the next stage of setup. It shows me which sections will appear under the students section group. So you'll have the student's name, and then these are the default sections. Very important to note that this is the only time that I can delete this for all students. So if I don't want to do quizzes with them, I can remove it at this stage. Later on, I can add other sections for them, but I can't delete it for all of them in one go. I'd have to go into each student and delete that section for each of them. Not quite sure why, but just an important distinction to make. So to be thoughtful about your hierarchy of this and your content under each student section as you're doing this. If I wanted to go in and add, say, the structure that I was mentioning from the team, I can come in and add other units and the other sections, sorry, and call the different units here, and then that will give these folders, these sections for each student. I'm going to create that, and it will just go through the next step of the setup process, getting it ready. I've only got a couple of students in there, so that should be pretty quick. And then my class notebook is set up. I'm just going to expand the tab again using those arrows and bring it out there. And if I bring out the side menu, you'll see I've got the collaboration space, the content library, and then my 2 students. Within each of these sections, so there's this extra welcome section at the moment. If and when I'm done with this, I can right click and delete the section if I want. I can also change the section colours and things like that if I want to. But within these are when you first set up a class notebook, really usefully, it's got an overview of what you can do, some help text, some links to some help about what to do within class notebooks. So there's lots of additional documents, additional help there with using this. There's an FAQ page under there as well that you can go and link to different resources. What I am missing from here that I do want is a teacher only section. So if I wanted to prepare content within the class notebook, but I don't want to make it available to students yet, I can go to the class notebook tab at the top of my notebook next to help, and I can go to manage notebooks. What that will do is take me to a settings page. Just to illustrate what I said before, I can come in here to add more sections for each student, but I can't delete them anymore. But I want to add this teacher only section group. And to do that, just click on and it enables it. I can also, while we're here, I can lock and unlock that collaboration space. So if I only want students to be able to edit within there at certain times, I can lock and unlock that in my manage class notebook section. Just going to close out of there, and you will find now under my section groups here, I've got teacher only, and again, how to use it is under there. I'm going to go through the collaboration bit now, and within there, I want to add a new space for me and my students to use. Perhaps I'm delivering in a session like we were looking at earlier, and I want to give a blank space that we can collaborate in during the meeting. And what I would do is I've clicked within the collaboration space, and I want to add another section. So call it meeting notes. Once you see, I've got another section added here, and a collaboration space for us for this first meeting. As I typed into there, it auto titled the page. If I want to add other pages under here, I can come in, and then I would need to type into that space. That you see, it just auto names my pages as I do that. It also gives me a date stamp for when this is from. If I click back into this first meeting, Alistair and Russell as my students, if you want to come into here on your machines and type, so that's one of those. I don't know who it is at the moment, but what I can do is go onto view and show authors, and I can see that that's Russell. Let's type that. We can hide the authors again if we want to, but see, compared to that whiteboard that we looked at earlier, you've got that accountability to a degree. The bit you don't get accountability for is if I go into, excuse me, this draw tab, and if I wanted to use a black pen within there, I can squiggle into here. But if I come back, my authors are on, but I can't see who's done this doodle, so a little drawback there. But if they've added image files, text, inserted something rather than drawn it, you would see who's done that. See Russell's been a picture into there. It's quite easy to add content to the space. Just click back into my select tool in the draw menu. If I go back to insert, I click in a space on the canvas there, and I want to put a picture in. I can do that from file. I can take a picture of myself. Hello. And then insert that straight into the document if I want to. I can resize. I can press delete and get rid of that. I can choose to go back to insert a picture from the internet. I can go to online one. I can do a search as well, but I can just double click on an image and bring that into a document. We have got, with it being a collaborative space, I can oops, I can move Russell's image there. I can delete it. It is collaborative. So you've got kind of a wiki kind of environment of that you've got the ability to add content, but you've also got the ability to delete stuff. What you do have as well, though, if you right click on that page, that meeting one, I can look at versions of it. So if one of your students does delete everybody's content, you can revert back to an earlier version of this page. You can bring my horrible image back if I wanted to, and then I can hide versions. So it is very similar to, like I say, if you've ever used a wiki and several authors contributing to the same space. That's what you can do with the collaboration space. And again, if I want to turn that off, I can go back to class notebook, manage notebooks, and I can lock the collaboration space to stop my students from being able to use it. The content library, again, as we did touch on before, there is a, once again, there's a help document when you first go into it. If I wanted to add a page within here, I can add more pages. As long as I'm clicked within the content library, one of the sections there, I could add another section. So I could start a Unit 1 section, which I could then add pages underneath. And again, these aren't editable by students. They are just editable by teachers. And then should I want to give the students an editable copy, we can distribute them to them, which we'll look at in the next section of this. But at the moment, I'm just creating a document here. I've got some documents on my computer that I want to add in here. Some more of those SPAG Word documents that we were looking at earlier, and I'm just going to drag and drop that onto, oops, I need a section. Drag and drop those documents onto the page and see they upload and show in that environment. One of the potential drawbacks of this compared to other areas of Teams is that if I click on this document, as we've probably become accustomed to already, we're expecting it to open up in this environment. However, if it's sitting within Class Notebook, it forces the user to download it. So similar to how things are on Moodle, they'd have to download the document to their machine to look at it. Another way you can do that, though, is you could copy and paste the text into the page. So if I opened one of these documents in Word, I can take the content of it and copy, and then I'm going to come into the teacher only section here. So I want this to just be for me at the moment. Until I send it out to students, I'm going to create a SPAG exercise page. And then I can paste, that content from a Word document into here. And then when I distribute this out to students, they can complete this. They can edit this document, so they can fill out a worksheet or completely within Class Notebook. We've got other options of what we can insert into these documents. So I've got a brand new page here. I'll click into the space. You will notice as I click into a document, that side menu auto collapses, and I can bring it back out if I want to. It can be a little bit frustrating when you're showing how it works though. If I go into the insert section, we looked at the pictures before, but I can also do things like add tables into here. I can change the width. Essentially, it's a Word document that you can move content around. I can insert attachments similar to what I did with those Word documents, drag and drop in, but I could upload it and going and finding the attachment like that way. I can drop links in. I can add audio into these sections though. So if I click on audio, it immediately starts recording and creates an MP3 file that sits within the page. So you could get students to record their voice, or you could also, when we look at the feedback a bit later on, you could leave them audio feedback using that tool. So it's tool insert audio. Just stop that. It processes and turns it into an audio file that sits on the page. It's actually a WAV file, so it's quite big. I'll come back to insert. For the maths teachers amongst us, there are maths tours, not something I'm up with, so I'll leave that to you to experiment, but you can use it to do maths equations within here. There is a forms bit, so you can insert, you can insert the forms that we were looking at earlier on as well. You could put surveys, quizzes into these pages. Unfortunately, within the Teams environment, that is not currently working. Another job that's with IT at the moment. However, if you opened it out in the browser version, I'll quickly go into this to show you, you'll see I get the same layout as I have within Teams, but I can insert a form and it will log me in and pull through any of those quizzes that I can create within forms. So if I pull my tea or coffee one through from there, I can insert that into the page and students can answer them here. Not quite sure why it's not working within Teams, but better to make you aware of that. We've also got on the home page here, as well as the audio recording, I'm just going to start a new page for this one. Maybe I'm not. Go to this untitled page. My internet's clearly not happy at the moment. Let's see. It's probably because I tried to log into forms. Let's try again. So you do have a dictation tool here. So I'll just give it a title. I click into a space and I've got a microphone up here in the top right hand corner, the end of this toolbar. And if I click on that, it immediately starts to recognize my voice and typing into the space. Again, I've not done any training with this and it's doing quite a good job of picking up what I'm saying. And just stop that when I'm ready. And it will have entered that text there. So students can do that as well. You can get them to use that as an accessibility feature, or just if that's their preference, they can talk into it. And you can go in, it is text then, so we can go and get rid of that Z and make it an S, etc. And we can use it as, we can format it as text. On an accessibility front, I'm just going to quickly go back to the view menu, and if I click again on that, we touched on it earlier, the immersive reader opens up a pane where we can go through the text on that page. It will read through for us, and we've also got text preferences, so I can change font size, font type, change the spacing, etc. Change backgrounds and things like that as well, depending on people's preferences. And we can turn those off if we want to. This is user controlled, so if you set this up on the page, that wouldn't be how they see it. They would then make their own default selections on these, but it's a good thing to make your students aware of, especially if they do have additional needs with reading. You can change the reading preferences here as well. There's a line reader and blanks out down to a single line or paragraph, which can be really beneficial as well. I'll just close out of there. We can change the page color for our learners. So when we're creating a page, we can give a pastel background to it. Again, that can be really beneficial for certain users. I think most of us would suffer if we're staring at a white screen for all day long, but that can just help to take some of that glare off, adding a page background. We've got as well, it's just because I'm zoomed in a little bit more than I usually will be, it's in this more options bit at the end, and there's an accessibility checker. So we can click on that and it will tell us whether that page passes the Microsoft's accessibility check. You can see there, their own image doesn't have alternative text, so screen readers wouldn't pick that up. And tell you what the image is about, so you can go in and change those through the accessibility checker. I'm going to take questions. I've done a lot of talking. If there's anything to pick up on before I go on to distribution.
Quite a few of the questions so far, I think, are on the distribution.
Okay.
Sort of things that we're going to be coming on to, I think.
Okay. Shall I go on to that? John, where is Class Notebook? It sits, so you're within Teams, and it sits on the general channel for your team. You will have the tab there, but you'd have to you click on the tab and set it up, but rewatch the beginning of this video on how to do that. Okay.
Yep, cheers, Stuart.
Good. Those top tabs, once I'm in Class Notebook and expand, it makes those disappear. So I've only got the menus from within Class Notebook itself. So we'll go to distribution. I'll come into that unit 1 within my teacher only area. And at the moment, like I say, this is only available to teachers. Students won't see this area, let alone anything that's in there. And what I want to do is send this out to my students. I need to have the page selected. And then within the Class Notebook tab, I get distribute page. There's a few options here. The top one is what I imagine you would use mainly, because that just sends it out to all your learners. However, you may have a task, a page that you just want to send to individuals or selected learners, and you can use that one. You can set up groups. So if you did have a team area that's got loads of different class groups in, you could set up those groups within here the first time you do that, and they would then exist for you to send subsequent pages out to them. You can also use cross notebook distribution. So if you've got, click on that one first just to show you what it does. It brings out a pane on the right hand side. You can choose which other notebook you want to send it out to, and then which section of there. So you don't have to duplicate work in every notebook. What I want to do though is I'm going to go back to distribute page, and I will just send that out using distribute page. It starts the pane again, and then I choose which section I want to send it out for my learners. I'll go and send this out to unit 1 and distribute. It gives a little progress thing coming up there to say it's processing that distribution, and then it's done. So that will be out in both Alistair, if it is unit 1, it's there, and similarly in Russell's, he will have his own copy of that exercise. If Russell and if Russell gets, am I not sharing anymore?
No, sorry, Stu. I was just about to say that. We've got Premier League scores at the minute on our I have mine from John McCormack. From John McCormack.
All right, someone else has shared and took away my thing. Oh dear. Okay. That's why
Do apologise.
it's all right. This is why you should set it up to just be you as a presenter, but I'd not took the time to do that. All right, I'll back into share my Teams. So how far back, Russ, did it go off?
You weren't far off.
Okay. So if I go into, did I actually show the distribution bit? Had I sent anything?
You were talking about that, yes.
Okay,
That's okay.
cool.
Just go through that again, just maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm in my teacher only section. I go back to that page that I just created, that SPAG exercise. Make sure that's selected, and I distribute page and click on the top one. That would send it out to all students. Seeing as I've already done that, I'll just click on the individual one. It's the same process, but I get individuals to choose who do I want to send this out to. I'll send this one just to Alistair, and then I can choose the section of Alistair's that it goes to. I need to zoom out a bit and distribute, and it will send it out to him. If I want to distribute to groups, I'm still on that same page, and I choose group distribution. At the moment, I've not got any set up, so I need to just go through this the first time. Do that, and I'll add Alistair into that group. Come back, new group, and set up. So I'm just going through setting up a couple of groups there. Russell's in group 2, but you can add multiple students into each, obviously. And then when I then come to do group distribution in the future, these groups will already be set up, and I can just choose who that's going out to and whereabouts I'm going to put it again. So you've got quite a lot of power on what you're sending to whom. If I, well, I've sent that out to Russell now, as I can see in Russell's sections there. I've got Unit 1, and he's got his copy of that SPAG Exercise 1. Each student has their own copy of this document when you distribute it. So although when we were in the collaboration space, there was just one document that everyone was working on. In this way of distributing to their sections, they get their own copy of it. So anything that Russell fills out on here won't appear on Alistair's version. So they can each have their own copy of a worksheet, for example. Russell, do you want to share your screen and filling this out?
Yeah, sure. I'll just go into that now. A second, don't look at my, am I sharing? No, 1 second. That's it. I've got a very untidy desktop there, everybody. So when I go into my team, I'm just going to go into Teams. I'm going into my student class, which is just class 12. I'm going to go into my class notebook. And as you can see there, as a student, the sections that I see are the collaboration space that we talked about before, the content library for my course content, and my student only section, my own folders here. What I don't see is this teacher only section. So you can be assured as a teacher, you know, if you are preparing lessons in the student is not going to see those sections. So I'm going to go into Unit 1. I'm going to the SPAG exercise. The SPAG exercise is loading up, and I can just go in there and I can just type in there team and I, and that's me, for instance, done that exercise. So I can just click out of that. Okay, Stuart, do you want to go back to the teach? Yeah.
So
sharing.
I'll come and start sharing mine. So from the teacher point of view, then you will notice that Russell didn't receive a notification there, and I don't receive a notification that he's completed it. There aren't any integrated notifications within Class Notebook. When we've discussed this with tutors in the past, we've gone come to the conclusion the best idea is probably to alert them in that posts section of the teams. So giving them a message there to all students that there is a new exercise in Unit 1 of Class Notebook, but you don't get notifications within Class Notebook itself, which is a little bit of a drawback for it. Russell's Russell's work then that he's just completed, I've not got a notification for it, but I could, this is one way I could manually find and go and see if he has completed it. You see there, I've not got what Russ has just done. I'm just going to reload that tab as well to make sure I'm up to date. Again, one of the potential issues with doing things in real time is things might not come straight through. No.
It was there.
It was there.
Tough again, didn't it? Yeah. Sorry, Stu. I should have refreshed my page before I sent it to you, but that's you should be able to do this.
I feel like it when things come together. Oh God. Right, let's assume this is working. It's there and disappearing. I do not know what that is. That's great.
It's the first time that's happened.
Friday afternoon. Right. Let's assume that Russell's work is there and find out how that can possibly not be there. I could go manually, like I said there, but the actual marking tool within Notebook is found through doing this. So go through the Class Notebook tab at the top and then review student work. You would still need to go to the documents here. So I'll go to Unit 1 and into the SPAG exercise. That's the one I just sent to Alistair. And I can see there's Russell and Alistair there. If I click between the two of them, he works there on this view, I can see they've both completed this exercise. Similar to marking within the assignments in Teams, is using the word processing kind of tools that we have within Office rather than the annotation tools that you might find within something like Turnitin. So I can go into inserting certain content for him. I can type into the really unuseful feedback. It's not a session on providing good feedback. I can add stickers, etc. if I really wanted to. One of the nice things that can be added though is within this home section. So I could add a to-do list in for Russell in his marking. So I could give him some checkpoints of what to do here. I can also insert video files into, which I didn't cover in the insert menu before, but if I go to a YouTube video, I'm just going to copy in the YouTube link into here, and you'll see as soon as I copy that in, it converts it into an embedded video. So I can drop YouTube content into here. Bizarrely, it doesn't work with Stream, Microsoft's own video service. I'm not quite sure why, but there are a few different sources of video and embedded content that you can use for that. Things like Vimeo as well. You can drop videos into there just by putting the web link in. So I've given sort of feedback for Russell there. I've closed off that. But so what I've gone into each of their documents. I've gone into Russell's there, and I want to lock this from the students being able to do any more work. So I can do this with or without giving feedback. But if I click on page locking at the top in this pane, I can select all, or I can choose individuals to lock. And after that point, it turns it into a teacher-only document, so students can view it, but they can no longer edit it. So if you're doing exercise with them where they are completing tasks and you don't want them to go back in after a hand-in date, that's where you would lock the page. Do we have any other questions on that area?
There's a couple come up in the chat, Stu. Just read them to you. Might be worth sharing. Paula says she's got staff notebook, and how is that different from class notebook?
Okay, so staff notebook is we're currently using that for our notes on these meetings. That is the same as class notebook, but you've created it on a staff page on Teams. So you will, again, your hierarchy on a staff page is the owner of a page is the same as a teacher, and the member is the same as a student. So it's the same structure. It just uses owners for the teacher role and members for the lower role. So if you're doing staff training and things like that through Teams, then you may use that as the option. But yeah, class notebook and staff notebook are the same thing, just depending which team you've put it on.
And Glenn had a question. He might need to come on and explain this. I'm not sure. It says, how do I distribute an e-portfolio? Is it the same as distributing a page?
Yeah, please come on.
You want to turn your microphone on, Glenn?
Yeah. What I mean is, all our students have individual portfolios. So in the past, it's been a paper-based portfolio of about 50 pages. I would have give each student one of them.
Well, it's a document. You could send it as the document through there, but you'd basically be building up the structure of it and then sending out.
So I couldn't send the complete portfolio in one go.
I've never done it. I've never done it, but I think you'd be able to do it in this sort of way of doing the distributing a section rather than a page. And I have to have a look into that so you get the full structure all set up once, and then send it out to students.
Is there anywhere other than the class notebook where you can distribute it as a full item?
I mean, class notebook provides that kind of two-way system of them doing an e-portfolio. Yeah. So I'd probably find a way of structuring that in here and then distributing it out all in one go. But yeah, I'm not sure what other options you got. I mean, some people have been using things like Seesaw and things like that as an e-portfolio substitute. I think it'd be workable through class notebook, but possibly a session to have a look at that in depth ourselves. We've booked in a session for catering staff next week to have a look at how they can use class notebook to be that e-portfolio for them. So I'm happy to do the same with anyone looking to do that and problem solve it together. I think it's a lot of this. So we're looking at it for the first time in a way as well over the last couple of months. We're looking at it and problem solving as we go along and finding solutions. So
okay, that's great.
Get in touch with what you've got and we can go through and make it work for you. So
thank you.
Okay.
And I think the last one for now, Stu, was again, Bernadette might need to come on and explain. She says, can I run class notebook alongside an interactive PowerPoint, which I show through the desktop?
Yeah, my problem has been I've been trying to use whiteboard and interactive PowerPoints, and I couldn't do that because when I clicked off the desktop to go into whiteboard, I then had to go back into desktop to get my interactive PowerPoint. Can I run these two together?
So you were sharing the whiteboard that we looked at in session 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whiteboard saves and is attached to there, but there's not multiple windows you can have open within what you're sharing in that respect. It's tricky. I mean, I would share using the desktop method, have the PowerPoint open in PowerPoint on your computer and share that window, and then go to the window with maybe the class notebook collaborative area open for you where you're using that as a whiteboard, and switch between those two rather than trying to use the integrated PowerPoint and the whiteboard sharing options, if that makes any sense at all. it's showing what's on your computer rather than those tools within the meeting itself. So
Yeah,
that's what's restrictive.
Yeah, I've done that, Stuart. It's a bit tricky, but it's manageable.
Yeah, I think it gives you more control over what you're doing, doesn't it? Because you're just basically using your computer as you normally would. Then you're not using the Teams meetings tools, which are, to say, they're restrictive in what you can show at once.
Okay, I'll give it a go. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. There are a couple of more questions come up, but I don't know how you fix for time, Stu. Do you need to press on?
No, I think we've covered the main tools. Really, it really is picking up on what if we've missed anything people want to know and just answering questions. We've actually gone through quicker than normal.
That's good. Gavin says, can you,
gaps.
Gavin says, can you transfer content and pages from one team class notebook to another?
You can, in terms of the notebook. I've just seen, is that from Gavin? Do you want to come in? It says from one team to another.
Yeah.
So do you mean outside of class notebook or within?
I just mean, for example, if you're like from one year group to another year group.
In terms of the actual team or within the notebook?
Into a different team.
Yeah, so if it's team content, you'd have to do it as you're setting up that second team. When we looked at earlier about when you create a new team, you can use a pre-existing one as a template. You can't share between them after the event like that. You can't distribute to that team within different ways. If you're using the class notebook, though, you can use that distribute page and do cross notebook distribution. So that will send it out to the notebook within a different team. So that's more that kind of ongoing maintenance side of it, being able to save stuff out day by day. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
The one just under that, Stu, is from Sarah. Sort of question about archiving. What happens maybe at the end of the year when the team finishes? Are the students going to lose all their notes they've made, etc.?
As far as I am aware, teams are going to get archived and then new team areas will be created. There will be the ability to bring a full, bring it over as a template from the previous years, but that year's team will be archived. So all the content from students and everything will be there in an archived version, where, as we've tried to stress a lot, we're not IT and we've not got that side of it. They've not given us any admin roles on Teams. We've got the same privileges as you guys, so we are kind of hands behind our back, blindfold on with a lot of this, trying to make things work. But they're working on that rollover plan at the moment. They've asked us about it, and we've obviously stressed the importance of teachers being able to get to previous work, not losing stuff, but also not starting from dot as well as much as possible. So they're working on that rollover plan, and hopefully we'll have some updates on that soon.
I think Nicola's had a hand up for quite a while.
Okay. Hi, Nicola.
Hey, sorry, it's just one of the comments that I wanted to ask, but it's had an angry reaction, but I don't understand why. When you're marking the work, is there a tick icon that you can actually, like we would normally when we're marking work?
So again, you're stuck with you're stuck with the kind of word processing thing, but I imagine in Symbol you'll be able to get one like you would through other symbols.
Square root sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's probably the limitation of that. You are given the limits of that kind of basic word processor within there. And to be honest, I've never looked into it, but as you can tell. But if you're using the browser version or the OneNote app version, you do have some other tools available to you. For instance, printing pages and stuff.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, you have
stickers.
Delightful stickers as well.
Were there some other was there a to do checklist ones?
Oh, the checklist. Sorry, you thought you wanted my stickers.
Sorry, yeah, sorry. I thought that was the one. But
so it's tags.
Tags, yeah.
Yeah, so there's stuff within there, but it's more kind of call to action.
Yeah.
Stuff there.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, it is somewhat restricted in what you can do compared to the full version of Word, for instance. But maybe look in the browser version about what you can insert, Nick.
Thank you.
Okay.
Abdul had his hand up.
Yes, please, NST. And if I create a file is under the general file,
Yes.
and I want to distribute that file is into channels, class channels, how do I do that?
The class notebook doesn't exist on those channels, only on that general channel.
It's not in the class notebook. It's just from the files, general.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's within Teams, you mean, isn't it, Abdul?
Yeah, it is within Teams. Yeah, from files.
I've just had a quick look for you actually. Well, because I saw your question come up at the very beginning, and I can't see a way of doing it. You can only move files from your general area to the class materials area, but you can't move them to the files on. Oh, you
can. So
you can. Oh, right, I didn't know that.
Here we go. So something I've never done. Abdul,
I've just tried to do.
I was trying yesterday.
So if I click on the file and go to move, it gives me a directory of where I want to put it. And at the moment, I'm in the class. I'm in this the general files area. If I go up a level, it gives me my channels.
There you go.
So I can move it over to there, and that will be the same for, I believe, I need to go to that one now. Put it in there. If you go to copy, you'll have the same sort of idea. So if I want to distribute that over to Unit 2 as well, I can make a copy of it within there.
Yeah.
It should then be there. Okay.
Yeah, I'll try that.
So you can do it. Yeah. We like learning on the go. So the recording, Andy, comes out as a video file, so you'll be able to pause and go around that as much as you want. Yeah, the link to the recording will come out in an email at the end of the day. I'm putting all the recordings of every session that we did 4 on Wednesday as well, and we've done about 8 over the last couple of weeks as well. So you'll have 4 versions of each session available to you should you want that. I'll send a link out to the channel on stream with all those on. The teacher section in my class notebook isn't there. So where that was, if I go into class notebook, this one will probably have it. So it is already there on this one, but where you get to it is you click on next to help, you've got the class notebook tab there, and you go into manage notebooks, and it's enabled here, but then you've got the teacher only section group, and you just enable it there, and then it'll be there. Saving happens as you go, Mo. It's automatically cloud saved, so as they're going, it's saving it. They don't need to click to save or save as. It happens as they're going. So there's nothing to do in that respect. It just will update it. Okay. We're pretty much on time, unless there's any other bits I've missed.
There's just 2 minutes to go. Beth had a question about, is this a safe place to store, for students to store marked work, for example, to turn it in for assignments?
It's all locked down to on our system. It's all on Microsoft servers, so and only accessible to them. So the other students can't see their work if they've put it in their area, and it is there for them to access whenever they've got access to that class notebook, unless you manually remove them from there. Even if you remove them from your team, you have to go into the OneNote app to actually remove a student completely from the notebook and delete their work. So it's very deliberate to go and do that. So from it being their safety, yeah, it's fine. And in terms of other people seeing it, it's fine as well, as long as they put it in their own area and not in that collaborative space.
Just quickly, Stu, did we mention the locking of pages? And when you went through that?
Yes.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, sorry. Thanks.
Paula's put about the staff notebook being on there. I don't know if it's been answered. So that's in a staff page. When you set up a new team, you've created a staff team. You go through the setup the same as we did with class notebook here. So on a new page, it doesn't set it up until the tab is there, but it doesn't set the actual notebook up until you go through that wizard of setting up. You click to set up the notebook. If I quickly create a staff area, so that one, I'll just create one. There's no one in there. I'll skip that. But it gives me the staff notebook as a default rather than class. And as I click on that, it will give me the option to set it up. So you go through the setup, and again, it will depend on who you've got on your team area as members or students in a class situation to who gets pulled through into that. So you need to go through the setup of it, because it asks you whether you want to do a blank one or whether you want to populate it from another existing notebook. So you get that prompt, but it's not set up until you start. Hopefully that makes sense. We're up to 2 o'clock, so I think we'll knock that on the head. Cricket's still looking pretty awful. I won't sneak any of that in this half an hour, I don't think. And then we'll be back at past for looking at stream and using video. Again, the session's been recorded and the links will come out at the end of the day on email to you all for that. I will remember to download the list of everybody who's been to this session, Russell and Alistair.
Well
I nearly wasn't going to them. And then I'll see everyone in half an hour. Thanks very much.
Cheers.